Good afternoon, everybody. Rob Byers, I see you're on. Do you want to do a quick audio check with us?
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think people are just gathering, so we'll give it until about maybe 2:03 or so, Eastern time, and then we'll go ahead and jump in. And Tim Briscoe, I see that you're on as well. Do you want to do a quick audio check?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Stephen, are you on as well? Do you want to do a quick audio check?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, we're just going to give it another minute and then we'll get started here. Alrighty, let's go ahead and dive in. Thanks to everybody for joining today's monthly call of the APHL Rhapsody user group. It's Wednesday, November 5th. Today, we've got a couple of questions that peers have submitted, so we'll start out with those. We do have an update from Rhapsody Health. I think we've got Sean on and Debbie on, so we can give them a few minutes to give some updates. We'll do a quick jurisdiction round robin, look at what's coming up next, and then we've got some presenters today from the Reagan Street Institute. We've got Stephen Wagers and Tim Briscoe to talk about the Loink Fire server. And then we've also got Rob Byers on from Idaho to talk about how he has interfaced that fire server with Rhapsody to validate Loinks in real time. So hopefully a very good discussion today. Looking forward to it. Let's start with the jurisdiction round robin slash requests from peers. We do have two questions that I want to put to this group to see if you know if your jurisdiction has anything to share about how you're approaching these problems, or any tools or resources to share, or if you have any suggestions for the people who have asked. So the first one is, do you have a route that will de-identify an HL7251 ORU RO1 message? That's actually something that I don't think have on the APHL TA team, so I wanted to put it out more broadly to see if anybody has a route that will handle that kind of de-identification.
Is Lynn on the call? Lynn Graham?
No, she's out today.
Okay. Well, I mean, I thought she was going to share. We have specifically a filter. It's a pretty simple um, HL7 message modifier filter that de-identifies, if that counts.
Okay, all right. That would actually be probably helpful, Rusty. Do you mind if I get you in touch with the person who requested that resource?
Sure, I'll probably route it through Lynn since she's kind of the owner of the system. But yeah,
Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, if you can get me in touch with Lynn, that would be great. Um, and
Cuando
Ed
yo
from
allá no sé.
uh-oh. And then Ed from Michigan says they might have something from part of Seller from back in the day. Okay, I'll let you know, Ed, if we need to follow up with you.
And
Thank
Mel,
you. Yep.
what if we have it? Is there a repository on the APHL site that we could load it?
Yeah, so Rusty, one question I will probably have for Lynn is if you guys would feel comfortable sharing it, I am happy to put it on the collaborate space for anyone who would be interested. So that's something I'll discuss with you offline, okay?
yeah, that's fine. I don't think she would have a problem. I just don't want to speak
Yep,
for her.
exactly. And I don't want you to commit to anything on the call, so.
Yeah, I should be committed probably, but I won't.
All right, I appreciate it. Let's see. And June from Arkansas, we use a JavaScript filter to remove patient identification information. Okay, yeah, I will definitely be in touch June to get more information on that. Um, yes, and Amy, I will put in the chat a link to that collaborate space here. I'll also make sure it's included in the meeting notes after this. All right, the second ask is about cloud solutions. So basically, if you have a some kind of a database or other data management system that is cloud hosted, how are you pulling that data from with to Rhapsody? How are you interfacing that with Rhapsody? Are you using a COM point? Is it requiring multiple COM points? I think that there are some jurisdictions that are trying to design a solution for a new setup that they're doing. So I think that they were hoping to get a little bit of clarity on how other jurisdictions are handling that scenario. Does anybody have any thoughts, anything that they'd like to share?
When they're pulling data from the cloud solutions, do they have an initial message that's getting processed and it's trying to link with the data in the message, or are they trying to trigger from the cloud to do things?
I think either way, right? Connectivity level question, I think, is what has been asked here
So
with cloud implementations.
if you have data in the message that you can link, you can use a SQL pull if Rhapsody can access like read-only access to the database. You can actually not even use a COM point, but in the
Mm,
middle of the route, you can have message properties pass into SQL and have them as part of your select statements to pull out what you want to link with the message as it's going through. If you're trying to initiate a message, that's a little different where you need COM points and how to know when something's new or when something to be processed. But if it's linking additional like epi data or something, then SQL in a inside one of the filters, not a COM point, can be used.
all right, thank you, Christopher. I think that's a good suggestion. Does anybody else want to comment on this one? How you're doing something like this in your jurisdiction? All right, well, I appreciate the input, and if you guys have questions that you'd like us to try to puzzle out an answer for, please let us know. We will try on the TA side, and we will open it up to a broader audience if we need to. So please let us know. Um, Sean, if are you on? Do you have anything that you want to share as part of the Rhapsody updates? I know you want to talk a little bit about the new release.
Hey Mel, yep, I'm here. Just following on the end of the cloud topic. I guess I've seen some customers use SFTP. It depends on what you're connecting to. AWS as Azure. So we have SFTP call points that can do that. The S3 or other AWS call points, and some customers use the AMQP communication point. Perhaps not here, but in other areas. Sorry, did you want me to talk about the releases?
Yeah, did you want to give any information on this meeting, on the Microsoft
Yeah,
OAuth
yep.
update,
Mm-hmm.
or yep,
Yep.
and
Yep.
either 6.6 or 6.7, since I know they're both right there.
Yep. Yeah, so with the Microsoft and just a reminder for what that is, that's the Microsoft Exchange Online, and they are deprecating basic auth for SMTP from 1st of March next year. And that means if your Rhapsody is using it to send out notifications or outbound emails, then it will stop to work. So then it'll stop working. So we have now that's been addressed by support for OAuth 2. And that is you can find that in Rhapsody 7.6. And we have now released all 3 patches which we were intending to do. So Rhapsody 7.3.3, 7.4.3, and 7.5.2 have all been released in the last 2 to 4 weeks. So those are all available now to download. So if you are impacted, then yeah, the recommendation would be to do that earlier and get that set up. We're not doing a Rhapsody 6 patch any longer. So initially when this was announced, a number of Rhapsody 6 customers reached out to me. Now over the last 6 months, I've been in contact with those Rhapsody 6 users, and they've all decided to go to Rhapsody 7. So we at this point in time, we are not going to do a Rhapsody 6 patch. And Rob, yes, I can share a link. I will share the link to the forum post, and the for the release notes, I can share the link to the Rhapsody 7.6 release notes. I'll do that very shortly. So that's Rhapsody 7.6, 7.3.3, 7.4.3, and 7.5.2. Are there any questions on that? Oh, okay. We will be sending out a group an email about this next week, just to inform customers that all of these releases now support OAuth. And we will also Microsoft does provide instructions on how to do this, because the Rhapsody side setup is very minimal. It's the Exchange Online system administrator who's got to do the hard work. So Microsoft does provide instructions. We've found those instructions to be a little bit confusing, so we're also releasing some additional supplementary instructions. So those two will come out early next week. Yeah, if there's no questions on that, then just the last part here on Mel's page, Rhapsody 7.7. So we do have a 7.7 lined up for release end of this year. It's just a small release, mainly with the small update for the email notifications, the large queue. It's an improvement to the large queue notifications, adding a new threshold, and just a couple of other smaller ones. It follows on the heels of Rhapsody 7.6, so it's So it's just a small release. And yeah, that's it from me.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Mel.
All right. Moving on. Let's go on to our next slide here. Just looking ahead for December, we're set to meet Wednesday, December 3rd. We are looking for a topic to highlight. So if you have a suggestion, if you've got something that you're really excited about that you'd like to share, or if you'd like us to tackle a topic that you haven't seen on the list yet, please reach out to me, throw it in chat, and we'd love to use your ideas. Looking into 2026, we are hoping to do some spotlights on condition-specific mapping and how jurisdictions are approaching that. We want to look at the R tool that APHL TA has developed, and I know several jurisdictions are using. We also want to look at how jurisdictions are removing non-reportables from their feeds. We want to look at common troubleshooting techniques and strategies, and looking a little bit more at artificial intelligence and Rhapsody now that that's getting built into the application. So we definitely have some good topics that we're trying to prepare for the coming year. But again, there's plenty of room on the schedule. So if there are things that you'd really like us to dig into, please let us know. All right. Any other questions, any other peer requests or updates that anybody would like to make before we get into our main topic today? All right. All right, so I want to introduce our presenters today. Again, we've got Stephen Wagers and Tim Briscoe from the Regenstrief Institute. They're going to go through kind of a walkthrough of the LOINC terminology service, and then we'll pass it off to Rob Byers after that. But we're really excited to have Stephen and Tim on today to go through that tool. I know they want to give you guys an overview of it, and then they're hoping to solicit some input from you to see how we can make it better and how you guys are going to plan on using it. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Tim and Stephen. I don't know which of you wants to share, but I think you
I'll
should be able to
share.
take the screen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll start us off. So I just wanted to say thanks
He's
for
totally blowing us off.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I felt very
I just want to say thanks for inviting us to talk about our terminology service. Like Melanie said, my name is Stephen Wagers. I'm the Director of Technical Services for the Health Data Standards team at the Regenstrief Institute, and I'm joined by my colleague Tim Briscoe. So next slide, Tim. So why we will focus on our terminology service to get LOINC content. We'll briefly touch on a couple of other methods of getting LOINC, such as our download files and a couple of other non-FHIR APIs we have available for anybody that's interested in utilizing those. All right. So the first thing I'll talk about is our LOINC download file. So that's our main publication of LOINC, and it's available at loinc.org/downloads. It is important to note that all of the services and the downloads here that we have, you'll need a LOINC user account to access. So just to briefly cover what's in our downloads, right? We have the main LOINC files. So this is the heart of our release and contains all the terms, including two formats, the core version and the full version of the LOINC CSV, along with CSV files containing map2s and source work. Next one, Tim. We also provide a number of accessories, which are support and supplementary files, such as for such things like parts, entry lists, and groups. Next one. And each of those accessories has a comprehensive README file, which contains a lot of information specific to that accessory, such as directory structure and description of the file, and the contents within. And finally, we on our knowledge base, we have moved our release notes. So if you want to know more about a specific LINQ release, you can go to LINQ.org/KB, and I think it's like the top link. All right. And with that, I'll turn over to Tim to talk about our LINQ terminology services.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So yeah, essentially our terminology service is just another means of accessing LOIN content through the HL7 Fire API or interface. I assume most of you are familiar with Fire, but just in case there's a little bit of background. The discrete data elements in Fire are called resources. Each resource is modeled with attributes and constraints to best describe the given data. Here are just a few of the resources that can be defined in Fire. Again, they're called resources. If you go to the HL7 website, you can see all the resources that have been defined. For our purposes today, we're going to focus on the resources within this terminology grouping here. It's important to note that these aren't the only Fire resources where you'll find, LOINC terminology or terminology in general. There's a couple of different resources, like observation, diagnostic reports, questionnaire responses, and so forth, where you can, like I said, you can find those other terminologies, including LOINC. But again, this is for our purposes today. We're just going to devote ourselves to just the terminology resources. This is how HL7 defines a terminology service. Essentially, if you want to break that down, there are, again, the mention of three different resources: code system, value set, and concept map. Those are the heart of the terminology service and what you really need to have to be considered a terminology service by HL7. And here, again, there are all the different resources that are included within the LOINC terminology service. In addition to these three, we also have questionnaire. Because of the nature of LOINC with all of its survey instruments and assessments, it makes sense for us to also make this available through our terminology service. Here's some of the basics regarding our terminology service. This is the base URL upon which all requests are made. Just like with the downloads, the service requires a free LOINC login to access it. We have complete documentation available, including examples if you go to loinc.org/fire. Currently, our terminology service is using R4 version of Fire. And also, it's important to note that this is a beta maturity product. We can't guarantee uptime at this point. But also, I do want to mention that does not refer to the content available within the Fire server or the terminology service. All the content is production level, except for those individual pieces that mentioned there, groups, which are beta, and consumer names, which are just another display name, which is considered an alpha in our world. Working with Fire resources, as I've described, the resources are discrete elements to define different types of data. Individual instances of a resource are identifiable by a URI. A URI is, kind of like a website URL that begins with HTTP. It's just a way of naming or identifying that particular resource. Operations or actions you can perform on a resource, they're represented with a name preference with a $sign. Like you see there, a potential example of $sign operation. That would be an operation in the world of Fire. And then parameters are ways to focus your request. So if you want to get individual param or different elements of a resource, you can use those parameters on a resource to kind of focus in or filter down to what you need. This is examining in particular, the code system resource. We've stuffed our code system resource with all of the LOINC codes, but also with parts, answer lists, and answers. All the different properties that are available within LOINC are defined within our LOINC terminology service. So you can see everything just as you would within our download, but represented as properties within Fire. We have versioning also within our terminology service. So dating back to version 2.69 to current, you can specify an older version and get exactly that if you're, need for any particular use case. But if you do, leave the version unspecified, it will always return the most current version. And then also it's important to note that translations, language translations are populated here as display names, referred to as designations within Fire. So that's just kind of a brief overview of what is available within the code system resource. And here's an example. As with any API, a client issues a request and the server returns a response. This is an example of a request you can make to our terminology service. In this case, we want to get the details on this code 28890-2. We can break down this request into smaller pieces to make it more understandable. This is the base, as I mentioned before, the base for the service. This is the resource that we're actually calling upon. This is the $ operation. We're doing a lookup in this case on the Loink code system. So this is a parameter. This is the code system URI for Loink, which is the http://loink.org. And then we're also passing a parameter. In this case, we're wanting to get the details on that particular code. So this is what the response would look like that you would get back based on that request. This is a JSON formatted response, but you can also get XML if that's what you prefer. Here's a sample, a second sample request. You can play with these examples. I think Melanie is going to send out the PDF of this, and it'll have all the links. But you can click on each of these links and view within your web browser. You can kind of play with the different requests. So as you can see in this second example, I'm adding an additional parameter of property equals component so that this will only return the component property for that particular code. So you can kind of see where you can kind of build these out and get hone in on exactly what you're looking for. And again, this is another additional parameter. So you're looking again at individual version 2.69. So you get kind of a look back at what was before. And again, you can kind of compile them together and hone in even further. Moving on to value sets, everyone I think probably knows that a value set is a collection of codes for a particular purpose. We've populated our Fire terminology service with a number of value sets. There's just general collections that we make available. Again, those are all listed on our documentation at loink.org/fire. But we also have answer lists and groups populated as value sets. Here's a couple of example value set requests. It's important to note there's two different, kind of big changes or differences there. The first one is a definition of a value set, which is basically just what it sounds like. It's the, how that definition or how that value set is defined. And then the second is the expansion, which will actually return the list of members within that value set. So you can get the definition, which is just, kind of the, how that is represented or how that is defined within our code system. And you can also get the expansion, which is the actual children within that value set. And there's a few other examples, like you can get a list of all the deprecated Loink terms using that URI. There's a couple other operations you can do within value sets. You can validate codes, whether or not it exists within a value set. So in that one in particular, you can see if an LA code or an answer code is populated or available within that answer list, which is the LL code. So you can see where we're calling on the answer list code, the LL code, and then specifying an LA code to see whether or not it exists. And just as with code system, value sets are versioned as well. They're a little bit different configuration, so you actually have to specify the version as a kind of an extension on the URI. So you can kind of see there how the different groups can be defined with a version at the end. And then concept map, Link has mappings to a number of other ontologies or code systems. So we have all of these available within our terminology service, and these are our bidirectional mappings. So you can go from one to the other, from a source to a target or a target to a source. So you can get either way to each of these different terminologies. And again, here's a couple of different examples. This is what the code system, I'm sorry, the concept map request would look like if you wanted to get all of those link parts to PubChem mappings, and the reverse would just be the different URL there at the second one. Again, I won't mention it too much because I'm not sure how much it pertains to this audience, but we do have questionnaire resource where we have all of our surveys and assessments defined. And it's really cool because they also, they're kind of like value sets, but they're value sets plus in that they have all of the different answers and answers available for each question. So here's just a couple of different examples of questionnaire requests. This is just for a PHQ-9. And again, you can see a lookup operation on a code system the same way. So you can kind of see that same code represented as both a questionnaire or as a code system. And again, this is kind of our home to all of our documentation. I think it's a very valuable resource that I recommend everyone take a look at. This is where we have all the information about our terminology service, but also, again, with those examples that you can easily copy and put in your browser along with your username and password, and you get kind of an example response for each of them. So you kind of play around with it that way. And I think I'll hand it back to Stephen to talk about some of our other APIs that we have to offer.
All right. So I'll just briefly touch on a couple of our non-Fire-based APIs that we provide. The first one is our search API, which is the API that powers SearchLink. It supports queries for terms, parts, answer list, groups, and it uses the same syntax and parameters that the SearchLink does. And you can find more information about that API and how to utilize it at that link. And then next one. And finally, we also just recently made available a download API. I know a lot of folks have asked for that for a number of years, which has a couple of endpoints, which allows you to retrieve metadata about current and past release, and also check for updates. And there's also an endpoint for actually downloading the release artifacts. And so I know this is useful for folks that want to automate their pipeline for downloading new versions of Link and ingesting it. And with that, I think we're at the end of our presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
I think what I want to do is I think I want to go ahead and go straight into Rob's presentation so we can see how one jurisdiction is using this, the API, one of the APIs in practice, and then we can open it up for questions. So I know, Rob, you were hoping that I could share your slides. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And hopefully everybody can see these. Let's see, hang on. I'm not getting that nice share. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Hopefully everybody can see the slides.
All right,
Yes.
great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Rob.
Awesome. All right. So I think if you go into the next slide. So Idaho, like I'm guessing everybody else, encounters multiple issues with LOINC codes related to ELR that we are receiving. Some of the issues that we get are obviously invalid LOINC codes, but they are LOINC codes being mistyped. They've swapped digits around in them, something along those lines, so that the LOINC is not valid. We also see every now and again local codes that are sort of masquerading as LOINC codes. And this is where the system that's sending it just hard codes an LN onto everything that they send us because they say it's supposed to be a LOINC code, and so therefore they're going to make it an LN. And if they don't actually have a LOINC code, they just stick their local code in there, and so it's not a valid LOINC. A third issue that we encounter is the use of panel LOINCs for results. So panel LOINCs obviously are supposed to be in an order segment, an OBR segment, but we find every now and again there'll be some facility that puts them in an OBX segment, like the one on the screen that shows it's a respiratory pathogen panel, and we get a result of detected. And it's like, well, okay, what was detected? Was it pertussis? Was it Haemophilus influenza, COVID, maybe something else? And there's no real way of telling because of the fact that they're using that panel. So that's invalid as far as we're concerned. I mean, it shouldn't be used in an OBX anyway. And without being able to tell what the result is, it's an invalid LOINC for us to use. And next screen, please. So we have set up a process, and I'm sure most of you have a similar process, where we have a SQL table of LOINC codes that are valid. And Rhapsody comes along and it takes every OBX LOINC code and it validates it against that table. If it doesn't find it in that table, or if it finds that it's a panel LOINC code, then we flag that for resolution. And that all works very well. It's using our SQL table and it's great. But we encounter not the issues with it, but one of the challenges with it is there are new LOINCs being received fairly often. New LOINCs come out, new LOINCs being used, especially when something like COVID comes along and suddenly there's a bunch of new LOINCs coming in. Then our way of updating the LOINCs, I mean, there is a download process where you can download and then do mass updates. The other option is to do manual updates when a new LOINC is encountered. So we decided to just go with that option instead. Sorry, I'm getting somebody talking there. But yeah, so we decided to go with the manual updates, that every time we find a LOINC that's a new LOINC, it comes in, it gets trapped in our system, it goes into the whole queue, and we review it, we validate that this is actually a valid LOINC and not one of the issues that we have encountered. If it is a valid LOINC, then we add it to our table and there's a process. If it's an invalid LOINC, then we approach the facility that sent it to us so that we can get that corrected. If it turns out that it's a local code that they're masquerading as a LOINC code, then we have a process that does a conversion from their local code to the valid LOINC codes, and we set it up with that. Next screen, please. So while we were working at this and validating the LOINCs, we discovered the LOINC Fire server. And we figured that this would be a great thing because it would allow us to do real-time validation if we wanted to, and would also allow us a way to bring in new LOINCs if they were valid. So when we had a look at the documentation, we saw that the LOINC server is not available, or not available, but not recommended for production, that it's a beta test application. And so we decided that, we currently have a process that's working. We don't want to go out and validate everything against the LOINC server, because that could, time to do that. And then if every facility starts hitting the LOINC Fire server with every ELR they get, it could slow things down tremendously. So we figured what we would do is modify our process so that we only validate LOINCs that are not on our SQL table. So if our system encounters a LOINC that it says is invalid, that it can't determine is on the SQL table, then we go ahead and call the LOINC Fire server to see if this is a valid LOINC, to see that it's not a panel LOINC. And then if it is a valid LOINC, we add it to our SQL table automatically from Rhapsody. If it is not valid, or if the LOINC Fire server is not available for whatever reason, then it just goes through our normal process and we end up with this thing in the queue, and we do deal with it as the normal process. So we do not have to have the Fire server available. We do not have to have the link available. Everything will process normally if those are not available, but if they are available, then it helps us out and can automate this process. Currently, because the Loink file server is not approved for production use, we haven't moved this into production. We've been running it in our test environments to make sure that we are totally happy with it. And then we might talk to the Loink guys to see if we can actually ship it into production, given that we are not dependent on the system being available or working. But at the moment, we haven't moved it into production. Next slide. Okay, so this is basically the initial route that we started off, where it was a little complicated because we ended up splitting a copy of the ELR off before it went to the Loink system, and then joining them and merging them when they came back. So it was a bit messy. It worked, but it had some problems where merging the things kind of became a little bit of an issue. Next screen. And then we started using the process where you can make a copy, a snap of the ELR, and that worked out so much better. So we take a snapshot of it and we send it off to the Loink system. We get the response from the Loink system. We put that response, we evaluate the response, put it into Rhapsody properties. We restore the snap and then add the properties back in, and off we go. If it's a valid Loink code, we insert it into SQL, and then the process just goes on its normal ways. If it's invalid Loink code, or if it doesn't, the Loink system is not up, then it just processes the normal way to the error routes that we normally do. Next slide. Okay, so this is just an example of the properties that we're using. You can see that we're using the code system resource that was mentioned previously. The $lookup process there, that can be a little confusing because the $lookup is used, as was mentioned in the FIRE, to say, hey, this is what the action you want to do. But dollars in Rhapsody properties can also mean, hey, replace this property with a value. So we had to ensure that there was nothing there so that this, named lookup in the Rhapsody properties to ensure that this works successfully. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is an example of the parameters that we are sending with the request. So we're telling it that we want the message back in JSON. You can also get an XML if you want, but we want it returned in JSON. The system that was mentioned as to the URI as to where the thing must look it up. And then in this case, the code, the $Loink that's here, this is now where it's the Rhapsody variable that's taking our Loink property and populating it in here, saying this is the code that needs to be looked up. And so there's a couple of things. The first initial one that you see there is it obtains all the details of the Loink. It returns you everything related to that Loink. In the second one, we have added a property to indicate that we only want the display name returned from that Loink. Next slide, please. And then this one includes two properties. It says return the display name and return the order OBS properties. Order OBS is the piece of the Loink code that indicates whether this is valid for order only or both order and observation or observation only. So basically this is what tells us whether it's a panel Loink or not. Next slide. These are the values. This is just a short example of what we are getting back in JSON. So the display name comes back. It actually, at the moment, we get the display name back in all of the languages that are supported. We haven't kind of figured out the way of saying English only. I'm sure there is a way, but we haven't got that sorted out yet. But it's not a problem because we just pull out the first display name we're getting, which is the English one. And so that display name basically, is saying, yes, the thing was found and this is what its name is. And then the order OBS both indicates that's a valid. If that came back with the value string of just being order, then that would tell us that this was a panel link. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, that's the end. So basically, that's how we process this stuff. This is the URL, which has already been given to you guys. And then I just put my email there in case anybody has any things that they want to contact me regarding this.
Awesome.
And
Thank you
yeah,
so
that's
much,
my side
Rob.
of it.
So thank you to all of our presenters. I think those were really clear presentations, lots of great graphics and a good walkthrough, and some very exciting stuff that you guys are working on. I'm going to open it up for questions for the group. Does anyone have any questions for any of our presenters, for Tim or Stephen or Rob?
Can I make a comment first of all? Just to Rob, well, to all of you, but to Rob, first of all, Stephen had to step away for a second, so my apologies. He said he would try to be back for our question and answer. Hopefully, he can get back online. He had an issue that came up. But just Rob, thank you for this presentation. It's really nice to see your use case and how you're using it, and thank you for being so conscientious in your use of our terminology service. I agree that, I don't think every request should be hitting our terminology service. It's great that you're kind of caching, the valid links in your local table for lookup first, and then only using our terminology service, whenever it's necessary. I think that's ideal, and I think that's, appropriate use that can be used for a production setting. When we say that it's, beta, I think it's pretty solid at this point. It's really that we do not have a SLA, to really back it up and promise, 100% uptime. We're probably, 99.99% uptime, which is, not ideal, but it's still pretty good. So yeah, I think, I think I would feel comfortable with what you have. We are working toward making this a production level terminology service so that we can, kind of guarantee, so to speak, uptime and consistency with the service. So yeah, I think we're heading in the right direction, but we still have some kinks to work out with the service.
All right, and I have a question in the chat. In case someone is looking to audit their entire Loink catalog, can they use the validate operation to validate a batch of local Loink codes at once, or is this intended for one-by-one validation?
To my knowledge, I think it's just one by one. I don't think there is any, I mean, you can create a bundle of requests and then get those responses back in mass, I believe. But I don't think you can supply, a string of or a number of link codes and get validation individually. I think you have to do onesie twosie.
All right, other questions for our presenters?
I have one question. When we are trying to make an API call for the line code, we are passing the line code and the system. Is it possible to pass instead of a line code and provide like to get a list of line codes related to that, for example, any kind of similar test line codes were relevant to that? If by passing a description or something that it could look up, is there anything,
That
any
that
APIs available for that?
That use case might be a better to use our search API, where you're, more or less using, if you all are familiar with SearchLink, which is our web-based tool for searching all of the Link database, and there's lots of different parameters you can provide there. That might be a better use case for that. Fire is not the best when it comes to searching for links. That's why we've kind of made available the search API. So that you can add that to your workflows as well. Um, so that might be, like I said, a better use of that than the terminology service.
Okay. Instead of using file resources, just there is an API for the searching those, and that is what we had to use. Okay.
That would be my suggestion, yes.
No, okay.
And I'd love to ask the group, are others using any of the Loink APIs? Have you guys been experimenting with this? Did you guys know about it?
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. Is there anything that prevents you from using the APIs?
Paul, I see your hand raised. Go
Oh,
ahead.
oh, hey, yeah. So I do see that we do have some effort that was made to try to implement a Fire API for Loink over here at the Oregon lab a while ago. But that was really good information, though, that that the Loink is that the content is production level, but
Mhm.
maybe it sounds like the beta maturity has more to deal with the uptime. So that actually gave me some pause because I saw the disclaimer on the Loink website, like don't use this for production. So that was really good information. Maybe we'll revisit this.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. Yeah. It's important to make that distinction that, yeah, the content is definitely production level. Like I said, with the exception of those two different artifacts or different properties, which may or may not be relevant to you all anyway. We're hoping to kind of revive our work with groups. So that will probably, hopefully, at some point soon get a production level. Um, but yeah, the consumer names is kind of just to give you a little bit more background on that is kind of in a limbo area, so we're not sure exactly what to do with those yet. And again, it's probably not relevant to you all anyway.
I was just happy to find that API. That was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully we can continue the conversation beyond today too. If there's things, if you do have a chance to look at this and work on it, what would be, what are the things that you would, like to see to make it better? And if you do have any comments, going forward, you can always reach out to us through Melanie or just send us an email or go to our website. Actually, is probably the best route, loing.org/contact. That's where you can send us a message and it gets routed to the appropriate party.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Other questions?
I think there's a question from John Park. Someone could stand up a mirror file server. Is it possible for anybody to stand up a mirror file server for Lynx?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, anyone can take our content and make their own fire server. You can just use something like Happy Fire, which is free for anyone to use. And you can, there's actually some really nice tools that are made available through Happy Fire to load the Loin content with each release. So yeah, you could basically run your own fire server if you wanted to, and then just obviously do the maintenance yourself.
And Jyoti, can I ask the ignorant question of exactly what a mirror fire server would entail?
I mean, having your own like no file server with
Okay.
the database of list of codes is what
That really
is that
is a question to get around the instead of 99, you could have it if you have your own server that you established the SOA, you could just replicate it and then that would be available 100%,
Mhm.
99.99, whatever.
and if that is the case, like, if we are trying to, like, hypothetically having a mirror file server, I guess like we need to have some kind of a schedule uploads or something like that, right, to maintain it.
Yeah, you would definitely have to be the one to maintain it in that scenario. Updated. Right now, we're only updating Loin twice per year, but it was announced recently at our Loin conference that we're going to be moving to monthly releases. So we're actually going to be releasing updates to Loin 10 times per year. We're going to skip a couple of months, so we're actually moving from twice annual updates to 10 times per year.
I know Fire has something called a subscription service. I don't know if that would apply to doing some kind of updates or not, but that,
Yeah.
again, that may be a completely different thing, but that would be a thought.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the onto server guys from Australia are doing a lot of that. They're doing a lot of federation of Fire servers, and I think that's something they're working on as well. I haven't really explored it too much, so I'm not sure the ins and outs of it, but yeah, that would be a great idea as well.
So we've got another question in chat. So if someone is interested in setting up like a proof of concept with the server, what would be the initial steps? Is there some kind of a sandbox? Do they need to request access? Is there an auth token?
The authentication is based on just a basic authentication of the Link username and password, and you can use your own personal username and password. You can create a kind of a role-based login. We welcome any number of registrations, so you can register a new account just for this purpose. But I would start with just using a tool like maybe like Postman or something like that to kind of just test out requests and where you can kind of see Postman's a great tool for working with any API, and it's just kind of a cool way to provide the base URL, the request that you're looking for. You can supply the credentials for authentication. You can see all the different parameters, and you can get back kind of a pretty formatted JSON string. So you can kind of anticipate what you're getting, and then at that point, hopefully you can build that into your actual workflow once you're kind of confident with, passing the right parameters to get exactly what back you want. So that's what I would suggest, and I think it's safe to do all that kind of sandbox kind of stuff on our current Fire terminology service. I mean, I don't think there's much you can, that's probably famous last words, but not much you can do to break it. We do get, millions of requests a month, so it's pretty stable at this point. But again, there's always that, caveat that this is not a true production level because we don't provide a 100% uptime guarantee.
Well, maybe we should check in, Tim, next month after everybody
Knock on wood that everything's still going.
adjourns.
Yeah.
They immediately go and create a login for the Fire server. All right, we've got just a few minutes left. Any final questions? So New Mexico has been looking to connect their ELR PBI dashboard, Power BI dashboard to the Loink API, probably the search Loink, and make requests for data quality. Oh, awesome. Okay, so we do use Rhapsody as well, and we'll look into it there. Well, awesome. Graham, let us know how that goes. We'd love to hear an update.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd definitely like to hear that as well.
Will do. Thanks.
All right, exciting stuff. I definitely look forward to hearing the different proof of concept projects that come out of this. Um, and Tim, you'll have to come back on in a couple of months and let us know how much additional traffic you're
Yeah.
getting, how many more calls.
Yeah, we welcome the use. Obviously, that's why we're here.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you everybody for joining today. I will get the notes and the recording out later, as well as the slides from our presenters. If you have any follow-up questions, you can get in touch with Tim and Stephen through the loink.org contacts on their website. And if you have any thoughts about this meeting or about future topics, again, please reach out to me. I'm really excited to hear your insights and your thoughts, and to be able to plan out calls in future months that address challenges and interests that help everybody that's working on Rhapsody and public health data exchange. So. Thanks everybody and have a wonderful November, and we will talk again in December. And
Thanks,
thanks
everyone.
again to our great presenters for today. This was a really informational meeting. I
Thanks,
learned a
Helen.
lot. Take care.
Appreciate it. Bye.